Hey there. Today's show is called Gaining the Mental Edge Over Chronic Illness. Before I get into the actual nuts and bolts of what I wanted to say, and I'll be brief, I needed to just take care of two quick things. Number one, the last show where I talked about the diagnosis journey and the emotional effects, I guess it soothed the nerve of many people around the world because I've gotten an overwhelming positive response, whether it be by email or Twitter. A lot of people have purchased my book, and I really appreciate that. And the more people buy my book, the more I can do this. And the last thing, in terms of buying my book, a doctor who would not let me say his name called my publisher and purchased a rather large quantity of my books so that he could hand them out to colleagues and patients because I guess he really liked what I wrote and how I said it, and it's very uplifting, inspiring, etc. So I wanted to thank him. And that book is, for those of you who haven't watched the show before, is called Confessions of a Professional Hospital Patient. I'm the author. My name is Michael Weiss. I have Crohn's disease. I've had it for about 25 years. Had every complication, side effect. I've been hospitalized over 100 times. And the book sort of details that. It gives really good tips on how to cope with the illness, every single aspect. It'll make you laugh. It'll give you a belly laugh. It'll give you some perspective if you're struggling. And if you're not struggling, maybe you're a family member, it'll give you insights into what your loved one is suffering through, whether it's Crohn's disease or breast cancer or any type of chronic illness. You can buy it at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, or on my site, which is hospitalpatient.com. Okay, gaining the mental edge over chronic illness. The best way for me to describe this is to tell you a very quick little tidbit. My sister Mindy, who I love dearly, every time when I was younger, when I'd be sick or be hospitalized and she would get the news, she'd of course call me immediately in the hospital, make sure I was okay. And she'd say, well, thank God it wasn't this, something else, which is much worse. And she meant it, of course. And then a week later, whatever she was thanking God about would happen to me. And that was basically the story of my life from 20 to 40. People would come and say, boy, thank God you only did this. Thank God you didn't need surgery. And then 4 days later, the next phone call would be, I'm having surgery. So the problem is when you're the patient, you're left to deal with that. And everyone means well, and they don't know what to say. How do you deal with that? I mean, how do you deal with the worst possible case scenario constantly coming up? And then also, how do you deal with having a chronic illness and knowing that your doctor, whether man, woman, or if a physician's assistant, whatever, when they diagnose you and they treat you and they give you medications, they'll tell you, well, there's this side effect and that side effect. And then when it happens to you, they just react robotically and say, well, okay, we'll try this other medication. And again, they mean well, but we as the patients, it's very lonely to have to deal with that. And the key is you can't let the mental aspect of it overwhelm you, because the physical aspect is so difficult sometimes, whether it's the illness or the medications. And in Crohn's disease in particular, some of the treatments are often worse than the actual disease. It's kind of illogical, but that is a reality, and very difficult to deal with. So what do? Well, like my close friend Lloyd, a very close friend Lloyd, says, it's you must go into almost like a survival mode. And that's what I've done. I've realized that I have to sort of exist at a bare minimum level, lower my expectations, and just focus on my health. It's a difficult way to live, particularly when you have a chronic illness, but if you sort of shorten your life, just make your goals more daily. Like, pick out tasks that you need to achieve so that at the end of the day you have a good feeling. Don't try to think too far down the road, because you'll get overwhelmed by, oh, what could happen if the illness does this or the illness does that. It's very important that you achieve success and control to the extent you can have it. The word control I find to be very important, because with Crohn's disease, it's got a mind of its own. So the only control I could exhibit is, let's say, physical fitness. When I'm healthy, if I could exercise, it's not much, but at least it's something I can control. It's my appearance. It's what I look like. And that's how I fight back. I try to just sort of take care of the things I can take care of, and the other things I can't, I just have to let go of them. I wrote a book. I mean, that really helped me. It was very therapeutic. There are support groups people go, and now because of the web, be careful, make sure it's the real deal, but there are some great support groups. And then a lot of people go to psychologists or psychiatrists, and my experience with that, and I've detailed that in other shows, has not been very good, because for me, and this is just for me, because I know other people have had fantastic stories, I want to see a doctor who can relate to what I go through. And it's very difficult. I mean, if you're going through a divorce and you need to see a psychologist, everyone gets divorced. Everyone, these are regular problems of life. But when you have, let's say, 2 surgeries within 3 months of each other, or you can't afford your medications on a monthly basis, or how many people could relate to that? I mean, I've actually had the experience of a doctor I'm crazy about say to me, yeah, you really should seek counsel from a shrink, because I couldn't handle what you're going through. I mean, I laughed at, I think I've learned to be pretty tough, but it really feels lonely. And that lonely feeling can really mess with your head. So I think the key is to do what works for you. Maybe it is a psychologist. Maybe it is a support group online. Listen, I cry a lot by myself. I think I'm strong enough to cry, because if you don't let it out, it's going to compound the effect of the illness. And people with chronic illnesses have way too much to deal with. You just have to sort of just take the punches, live to fight another day. And when that next day comes and you can live, get out of your house or your apartment, get on a bike, ride, enjoy life. But gaining the mental edge is really difficult, but there are ways to do it. There are different ways. Find out what works for you, but certainly acknowledge the importance that you can get a mental edge over chronic illness. And one last plug for my book. I know that you'll get a lot out of it, and if you read the reviews, you'd see how. So, Confessions of a Professional Hospital Patient. You could also contact me at Michael Weiss at hospitalpatient.com. You could subscribe to this YouTube feed, which would be much appreciated. And I guess there are many other ways. I guess on Twitter, Hospital Patient. And I sincerely appreciate the audience and the continued interest. And if you have any ideas about future show topics, please contact me. Thank you.